I've been sat here for 10 minutes trying to do something more wedding-y with my hair, but it's just not working. Like, I'm trying to do a little half up, half down kind of thing. Then, like, my ears just look weird. Also, I realised that I probably should have put on something more wedding-y. This is probably the opposite of wedding vibes, but my good friend Emma from Emma's Rectangle is launching her business tomorrow. And this is one of the t-shirts, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm going to be showing you a drugstore beginner-friendly wedding guest makeup routine, and one of my good school friends from my friend group at school got married a couple weeks ago, and this is pretty much the exact makeup that I did for that wedding. I've adapted it so that it's all drugstore because you don't need to spend a ton of money to have a beautiful face full of makeup. Okay, so step one, do your skincare. If you use like hyaluronic acid or moisturizer or whatever you do before you put in your makeup, do what you usually would do. I would just say don't use anything that's too oily under your makeup unless your skin is really dry, obviously. Also as well, I think a lot of people think just because like it's a wedding that you shouldn't wear SPF because SPF supposedly has flashback. However, I have actually found that as long as I like put on my SPF and then put a foundation over the top that doesn't have SPF in it or has like a very low SPF in my foundation, I was totally fine with flash photography and wearing SPF 50 underneath my makeup. Maybe some SPFs are different to others, but I personally haven't had a problem with that. I just want to say as well, if you have never worn makeup, maybe don't do like a full face for a wedding. You could literally just take a couple of steps from this. If you were literally completely new to makeup, maybe you could just go for a tinted moisturizer or a little bit of concealer if you've got any blemishes that you just want to cover. A little bit of powder to set that in place. Maybe a bit of blush, mascara, a sparkly eyeshadow and a lip gloss. That would be more than enough. And obviously you don't have to wear makeup to a wedding if you don't wear makeup. Do not feel like you have to do all of these steps because it is a lot, but this is just my full glam routine for if you're wanting to learn, if that makes sense. So my skin is combination, so I've put moisturizer all over my face, and then in my areas where I want my makeup to last a little bit longer, so kind of like around my cheeks, around my nose, a little bit on my forehead and a little bit on my chin, like through my T-zone, is that what you call it? I'm going to use a primer that's going to help to stick my makeup on, and this is the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. This is the one with niacinamide in it, but the original is also really nice. I'm not going to take like 5 pumps of this. I'm just going to take maybe like half a pump, and I'm just going to go in with my clean hands on my nose and those areas that I just mentioned, and I'm just going to really kind of like work it into those areas and make sure that it's fully like smoothed out, bringing that down into my smile lines because I get creases there as well. If you have super dry skin, go for a more glowing primer, and definitely remember, if you've got any blemishes or any dry patches, use a thicker moisturizer on those areas before you do your makeup, and it should help them throughout the day to not look as dry. Then for my base, I have a good few suggestions for foundations. One of my favorites, hang on, it's up here, is this L'Oreal Infallible 24-hour fresh wear. If you've got oily skin, or actually even if you have dry skin, I feel like this could work. It's a very long wearing foundation, great for weddings. You don't need much of it. It's got really good coverage. This is currently the wrong shade for me, so I'm not going to use that one. Also, actually, the original L'Oreal True Match, I've got to say, L'Oreal hands down make like the best foundations at the drugstore in my opinion. L'Oreal True Match, another incredible one. The True Match Nude Plumping Serum is just basically like a more lightweight and hydrating version of this. This stuff I bloody love. I'm pretty much out of the bottle. Another one that I've been loving recently is the Maybelline Skin Tint. This one is more long lasting than the L'Oreal one and has a little bit more coverage. I did do a sponsorship for this, but this video is not sponsored. But I would genuinely wear this to a wedding because it lasts really well on my skin, so I'm just going to put some of this on. And I find personally that my makeup lasts longer when I'm wearing like a lighter weight foundation or skin tint or whatever, and then just spot conceal the areas that need it instead of a full coverage foundation all over my whole face. That's just me personally. Oh my god, and I forgot a little tip. If you've got any spots that are like particularly visible and you want the coverage to last a little bit longer, take a concealer that's in a pot. I don't even know if they still sell it anymore, but I couldn't find my collection one. It's the Rimmel Lasting Finish concealer. But basically any concealer that's in a tub, because they tend to be a bit more dry and like will last a little bit longer. I would not recommend this under your eyes because it's very thick. But before you blend in your foundation, take a bit of a, like, do you see that just covered that? Take a thicker concealer and put it on any areas that need coverage. Oh, I forgot to do it on that spot in between my eyebrows. Then I'm taking a beauty blender. This one, you know what? Actually, I've realised that my tools are not necessarily drugstore, but I really like the Eco Tools purple sponge, like the biodegradable one. I really like the Real Techniques sponge as well. That one's pretty good. And it's probably better to start with a small amount and then build it up if you need to, especially if you're a beginner and you're not too sure what you're doing. The key, I would say, is just keep blending over everything and sit in front of a window so that you've got the natural light coming through so that you can see what it's going to look like when you step outside. You can do your eyes first. I personally like to do my base first. I'm not going to use any like dark eyeshadows in this, so there's not really going to be much fallout anyway. But if you would rather do your eyes first so that you don't get eyeshadow fall down on your makeup that you've just done, then feel free. And then just while I do my under eyes, I'm going to take another concealer. This is the L'Oreal Infallible one. This one's got really good coverage just on those spots again, and I'm going to kind of leave it there for a sec while I blend out my under eye concealer. Under my eyes, I'm using the Maybelline eraser. Mine is kind of broken and it's like coming out the sides, and I'm not going to take crazy amounts of concealer. That should probably be enough. A little bit down my nose, just because obviously the more products that you have on your face, the more it's going to crease. This is a pretty lightweight concealer anyway, but it has good coverage, so I'm just going to blend that out under my eyes. Also guys, I have actually been nominated for an award, a Be Creator Beauty Creator of the Year. I've been shortlisted in their awards, which is so exciting. I'm in the category with a lot of like talented people, and it's down to public vote. So if you have a spare 30 seconds to a minute, I would massively appreciate if you could drop me a vote. I will leave the link down below. Yeah, it's just the Be Creator Awards. You have to kind of scroll through a few pages. You can vote for everyone in each category if you want to, or you can just put that you don't want to vote in that particular category. And I think I'm a few pages in. But yeah, how crazy is that I'm nominated for an award? I was actually nominated for that same award maybe like, I don't know, 5 years ago, when I feel like I was in my prime. Actually, maybe now I'm in my prime. I don't know. I shouldn't put myself down like that. I've definitely improved in my makeup since then. It would mean the absolute world if you would go drop me a vote. When I opened the message, I was like, what? Me? The next thing I'm going to do is add some bronzer to my face just to warm it up a little bit, make me look a little bit less flat. And I would say that probably the easiest kind of beginner friendly way to do this is to either take one that comes in like a tub, like this collection one for example, where you can dip your brush in and just pick up a little bit at a time, instead of like painting stuff directly onto your face, which can go wrong quite easily. It's probably easier to take something like that or a concealer. Actually wait, am I going to use this concealer? I feel like I've used a lot of Maybelline. I promise you this is not sponsored. This is just the stuff that I've been using recently, because I did that video where I worked with them, and then a lot of the makeup I was like, you know what, I actually forgot that this concealer is really bloody good. But what I've been doing, this is the eraser in the shade 145, is taking some on the back of my hand, then taking my brush, because then you can kind of see the level of pigment on the back of your hand, and then when you've sort of like dabbed it out enough, you can then take it onto your face and not put on like a crazy silly amount that's going to be really hard to blend out. Also, the benefit of using a concealer is that it obviously adds a tiny bit of extra coverage. And a lot of people ask me, why do you do cream contour and blush to then cover it up with powder and then add powder on top? I find that my makeup lasts a lot longer if I layer them both up together, and also it looks a little bit more smooth and blended and just nice. I don't know. And I'm just like tapping it onto my skin with a Real Techniques Expert Foundation brush, one of my favorite brushes ever. It's so good. But instead of like swiping it, I'm just tapping. If you feel like you need to, go back in with your sponge to blend over any harsh lines. Make sure you properly like lift up your hair and get it like in that hairline. Let's take the collection one on my nose. So I'm just taking this brush. This is a Morphe brush. It's the V105, which on their website, the V105 now looks like a different shape, which is really confusing. You don't have to contour your nose. I'm going to do a bit of cream blush as well. And again, start off small with a small amount. You can always add more. I mean, I say that, I always put on way too much anyway. Some of the ones that I love that are affordable are the Beauty Crop Juice Pot blush in the shade Lychee. This is a really pretty pink. I really like the e.l.f. putty blushes. Those are nice. But today, because I've not used this in a while, I'm going to use the Beauty Bay liquid blush in the shade Spring, because I was looking at like through my drawer and I feel like this is a very wedding-y sort of colour. And I just put this above where I've done my bronzer, just so that it kind of lifts up my cheekbones. This one I find blends really nicely. Oh, that is just the most gorgeous colour. I like to put a little bit on my nose. Not everyone likes that, but do what you're comfortable with. So that's just now kind of blended into the bronzer, and again, just like dabbing. Again, back in with my sponge, just to blend over the edges. Then at this stage, I'm gonna add powder. If you don't have many wrinkles under your eyes, or if you don't have oily skin, you might not feel like you need to powder if you like this kind of glowing look. I would suggest powdering just to add a little bit more longevity, and also if you're going to be like hugging people, just so that you don't like transfer your makeup onto everyone that you hug. Although setting spray will help with that. And when it comes to powder, this is so important for a wedding. I would not suggest going for a white looking powder like these, like the translucent ones that are literally white in colour, because 9 out of 10 times, there are some that don't, but the majority of these white loose powders and white pressed powders flash back in photos, which means that when you take a flash photo, they will reflect the light and it will look like you've got flour on your face. Like, it's not a good looking flash photo. So I would avoid white powders like this for flash photos unless you know that it's one that doesn't flash back. It's probably better to go for one that has got a little bit of colour in it. I know for a fact that these two do not flash back. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder. This is the shade 05 Fair. This is the one that you can buy in America, or you can get it on Amazon in the UK. They don't sell this in the UK, which is so dumb. Another one is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Powder. I also tested this in flash photos. It doesn't flash back. Also, I think the Rimmel one, don't quote me on that, but the Rimmel Loose Powder, I don't think that has flashback. And the Rimmel Pressed Powder. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on that. I personally like to use a powder puff to apply my powder under my eyes because I find that it helps to set everything a lot better. But again, you can just use a little brush and use a small amount if you want to. But what I would highly suggest doing, literally the second before you powder, do one eye at a time, take your sponge or your brush or whatever you use to blend out your concealer. Blend out again to just get rid of that crease. Literally the second before you set. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Halo Glow. I'm taking this is my favourite powder puff ever. It's the Trigwell Cosmetics one. Taking some on there, but then dabbing off the excess on my hand so that it's not like tons. I'm going to do this in real time, okay? Because even just then, it started to crease again. So go over that crease, put that down, pick up my powder puff that's already got powder on it, and then set that straight away. And then keep kind of like dabbing over that same area to make sure that's all blended. Load up your powder puff so it's ready to go. And then blend, set, and I'm just pushing that in like right up to my lash line. There we go, lovely. I'm gonna do the same on my eyelids. If I was doing more intense eyeshadow, I wouldn't set my eyelids first and I would use like an eye primer and stuff. But for what I'm gonna do to my eyes today, I feel like you don't really need it. So I'm just gonna set those because you don't want creasy eyelids in photos. Feel free to use an eye primer if you would rather, but I don't think I need it today. Setting my small lines on my chin with this. I kind of do like a mini bake underneath my contour. I will like dab over the whole thing so it doesn't look too crazy, but for the rest of my face, I'm just pressing in some powder with a brush. If at this stage you have any spots that are still poking through, take a powder foundation. This one is the Maybelline Superstay, and either use your puff or a tiny little brush. Just where you have that spot, I'm just taking a tiny bit. Just gonna dab over that to add like an extra layer of coverage. And then at this stage, I'm going to add my powder, bronzer and blush. I'm going to use the No. 7 Golden Sand bronzer. I also really like the 17 Boots own brand. They do some good bronzers. So I'm just going to dip into this. And obviously Kiko do some great bronzers, if you would class them as drugstore. So I'm just taking a little bit of powder bronzer just on my like sides of my forehead and on my cheeks, and then a little bit down my nose. If you want to, you can take a smaller brush and like contour your nose a bit more, but I can still see my cream nose contour poking through, so I think I will leave it at that. And then for my blush, I'm actually going to use this one from Kiko, which is really affordable. They do some lovely blushes. Milani do some lovely blushes. They are a bit more expensive drugstore, but still drugstore. But for now, I'm just going to take this Kiko one. It's the perfect kind of peachy pink, which I feel like works for any like wedding makeup look and any colour dress. I get messages from people sometimes being like, what kind of makeup should I do to go with a blue wedding guest dress? And to be honest, unless you want to, like obviously if you want to go for some colour, go for it. Me personally, just like playing it safe, I would go for neutral. Like this will go with any colour dress that you have. I'm going to take that same brush that I used. This is another Morphe one, the Makeup by Ariel A22 brush, which is technically a highlighter brush, but I love it for blush. And I'm going to take a little bit of highlighter. This is just going to go on the tops of my cheekbones, just to bring back a little bit of glow to my cheeks. And then just to make my nose look super snatched, I like to take some on a tiny little brush. This is a Laura Lee Los Angeles L16 brush, but there's lots of similar brushes, just like an eyeshadow brush would do. And I'm just going to go down the very bridge of my nose and then a tiny bit on the end, missing out a little gap to give it that like little skinny effect. And then a little bit of highlighter on my inner corners. So this is the base pretty much done. I will then go in with a setting spray, but I'm going to do my eyebrows first and probably my eyeshadow first actually. For my eyebrows, a really good drugstore brow gel that I love is the Beauty Crop BFF brow gel. This also does come in a single. This one's like a double one with a mascara, but I don't even know if they sell this version anymore. But the little one is like the same. It's a very sticky brow gel that dries and will really hold your eyebrows in place. This one is just clear. If you're after a tinted brow gel that really holds your brows in place, the Maybelline, I think it's called the Tattoo. Maybelline Express Brow Fast Sculpt Brow Mascara is a tinted one that really keeps your brows in place. With both of these, because they are so sticky, you need like an oil-based remover to get them off. And if you're not used to filling in your eyebrows, just go for a bit of either clear brow gel or tinted brow gel just to add like a tiny bit of shape. But I would recommend putting a little bit of something in them and maybe a little bit of pencil, because sometimes the flash can like wash your eyebrows out. This is probably not super beginner friendly, but it's my favorite brow product ever. It might be easier to use a pencil, like a skinny retractable pencil, or a brow powder maybe might even be better for beginners. But I love this so much, and don't we all know it? It's the NYX brow pen in Ash Brown, and I'm just going in and adding in a few extra brow strokes. I like to add a few extra hairs at the front of my eyebrows, but you don't want them to end up looking too blocky. So eyebrows, I would definitely say, is something to practice before the day, and if you're not sure, just use a bit of tinted brow gel. Boots 17 do a really nice one as well. Number 7 do a really nice tinted brow gel actually that I love. So that's my eyebrows done. I'm trying not to make them look too blocky. Then for my eyes, I'm actually going to keep it really simple, but just like elevate my eyes, if you will. I'm just going to take my bronzer that I used on my face, and I'm going to dip into this with a fluffy eyeshadow brush. This is a Zoeva one. Zoeva do some great brushes. And I'm going to start on the outer corners of my eye. I would advise kind of like holding a mirror slightly below you. If you hold it up, then you're not going to see the crease of your eye. If you hold it slightly down, then you can get a much better view of where the natural like eye socket is. And you want to take this big fluffy brush with a bit of bronzer. The reason I'm using bronzer is because it's kind of like closer to your skin tone and easier to blend out. And then I'm just going back and forward in like windscreen wiper motions. You can do like little circles. Don't hold the brush down here, because then you're like putting too much pressure. Just kind of like hold it further towards the end and do little circles around your eye. And I'm just gonna sort of like flick it outwards a little bit. And yeah, I'm mostly just focusing it on the outer kind of half of my eye, but then bringing the rest just through the crease here. Then I'm gonna take a flat brush. This one is from Lily England, and taking the same, and I'm just gonna go on my lower lash line. It makes your eyes kind of stand out a little bit more. Then you could take any sort of sparkly eyeshadow that you want to. You could take the highlighter that you used. Actually, that would actually work quite well as a base, I reckon. I'm just going to take this highlighter. I'm going to take some on my finger even, and just put this on the inner sort of half of my eye just to brighten it up a little bit. Can you see? It gives a subtle difference. It's nothing too crazy, it's nothing too intense. You could use any sort of light coloured shimmery eyeshadow that you have, but you can always just take a flat brush and just get it a bit more precise. I feel like with this eyeshadow you can't really go wrong with it because it's very subtle. And then if you want to add a little bit of extra sparkle, I'm going to take this, which is the Collection Diamond Shine Highlighter, take some on my finger and just pat that over the top. It's just like a wash of shimmer really. Hopefully you can see that. Same on the other eye, just adds a little extra something. And then something that I do all the time now and I never used to do is take a gel liner which has got a little smudgy thing on the end, or if you've got like a little smudger pencil brush you could do that. Loads of brands sell these like gel eyeliners that have a little smudger on the end. This one is by Maybelline. It's the Smoky Brown Gel Pencil. This lasts really well as well, and you just twist it up so it's really easy. And I'm just going to close my eye, and then again looking down into a mirror, you can feel like where your lashes are. Literally draw this on your top lash line as close to your lashes as you can get it. I'm just going to do that on the outer corner and stop about 3/4 of the way in, or like halfway in, and then flip over to the other side and just smudge over that line and blend it inwards, blend it upwards slightly. You could just use a brown eyeshadow for this as well, but then you're more likely to get a bit of fallout. Can you see the subtle difference that makes? Makes my lashes look thicker and makes it look like I've put in more effort than it took. It just looks like smoky and delicate. So I'm going to do the exact same on the other side. And to me, this is the easiest way of looking like I really tried. I think it looks really nice. Also, I did put some of this in my waterline for the wedding that I went to the other day. However, by the end of the day, it was gone. Also, using a brown eyeliner in your waterline looks a lot less harsh and a lot less scary than black. And it is at this stage that ideally you have done your makeup before your hair. However, if you've done your hair and it's all ready for the wedding, maybe put on a hairband or something. I'm literally just going to do this. Otherwise, you will get setting spray in your hair. I know that this looks bloody ridiculous, but setting spray, so important for a wedding. If I recommend you get anything for a wedding, if you've done any form of makeup, it's setting spray. Because oh my god, I cried 3 times at my friend's wedding the other day and my makeup didn't really budge. The only thing was like the outer corners of my eyes, where I was sort of dabbing with a tissue. They kind of like went away a bit, but I literally had tears like streaming down and dripping off my face. I had no tear streak lines, and that I put down to a good setting spray. Some great ones from the drugstore. This NYX one is really good. These are the type that will stick your makeup on. You want to avoid ones that are going to be like glowy oiliness, hydration, that aren't going to necessarily like stick your makeup on. These three I would recommend. The NYX one, I think any of the NYX ones to be honest, the plump finish. The only thing is about this one is that you need to hold it far away because it's like a that one is really good. The e.l.f. Stay All Day setting mists, both this one and the green one, both gorgeous. The Maybelline Lasting Fix, this is a dupe of the Urban Decay one. Actually, all of these are dupes for the Urban Decay one. I'm going to use e.l.f. just because it has the finest mist out of all of them. And I literally am going to essentially drench my face with this and then take a little fan. While you're doing this, close your eyes so that it doesn't like crease your eyeshadow. And I do this before I've done my mascara. Otherwise, you may get mascara transferring onto your face. Release the hair. For a wedding, I would definitely recommend a waterproof mascara so that you don't get like black tear marks down your face. However, because I'm not actually leaving the house today, I'm just going to put on a regular mascara so that it's easier for me to take off later. I'm just using the Maybelline Sky High. They do this in waterproof as well. I've got no idea what happened on this eye, but I'm literally like missing a couple of eyelashes from the inner part of my eye. And of course, you can just stop with mascara. If you're not comfortable doing lashes, then don't do lashes. But if you are a beginner and you're wanting to do some lashes to like open your eyes a little bit on a special occasion, the easiest ones that I find to do are the Kiss Falscara, which I mean, this looks a bit messed up because I've used most of them. Like you can see there's only a couple left on here. You get this Bond stuff, which you literally just paint onto your eyelashes. And I will admit, this does definitely need an oil-based makeup remover to get it off your lashes because it makes them kind of sticky. But you literally just paint this on, or you could just get some lash glue and some little cluster lashes like those and try sticking them on your outer corners just like regularly with lash glue. But I personally find this is probably the easiest thing that you can do. So you want to coat your lashes in the Bond, which is like the glue stuff. Then I think the starter kit comes with these applicators, or if you've got any tweezers, then go for those. Make sure that they're not covered in glue before you use them. And I'm just picking up a little lash and I'm just gonna stick it underneath there, just on my outer corner. Oh crap. And I think I'm just gonna do two. This is what I did the other day anyway. I just did two like that and it just adds a little bit of something extra. Then doing the same on the other eye. And then give them a squeeze. There you go. And then you want to go in with the seal end because this stops them from like being sticky and just like go over them. And I feel like for a wedding guest, that is the perfect kind of eye look. Obviously you could do a more dramatic wing if you wanted to, but I just like to keep it really simple. It's just classic, isn't it? Oh my god, there's endless lip combinations that you could do. Literally endless. The drugstore has got so many good lip products. Primark lip liners, those are great and they're £1. For me, I'm gonna go for this Milani lip liner in the shade 04 All Natural. Look how small this is. Then for my lipstick, this one is also Milani actually. It is in the shade 410 Pleasure. Just putting a bit of that in the centre. And then to finish it off, these are two really nice glosses. The Kiko Hydra 3D Hydra Gloss in 03 and the NYX Madeleine Gloss. Actually, I feel like this one's a bit more weddingy because it's slightly more pink. It's the Creme Brulee Gloss. Do I go for that or do I go for the Kiko one? Let's try this NYX one, Creme Brulee. Actually, I feel like maybe the Kiko one because this has got tiny bits of like glitter in it. And this is pretty much the exact makeup that I wore to a wedding the other week. I just think it looks lovely. Obviously it is a lot of makeup, and like I said, if you're a beginner, you don't have to do any of these steps if you don't want to. You can just pick and choose the ones that you like the look of and just go with that. But for me personally, this is kind of like the perfect wedding guest makeup routine. I kind of want more blush, you know? So this is the finished look. I think it actually turned out really well and is all drugstore makeup. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please give this a thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos that are drugstore related, if there's anything in particular that you want to see, let me know in the comments. And if you are into drugstore makeup, feel free to subscribe because I make drugstore makeup videos quite often. I really hope you guys are doing good and I will see you in my next video. Bye!